entire Lynx system, again down to the hardware register level, where you write to the hardware register software, and then under the hood, the emulator would say, okay, we got to do this with that, and route it around and stuff like that. But the goal of the emulator was to be register perfect, so that the software ought to just pick up off the emulator and run on the actual hardware. And when that happened, we were all so joyous because it actually happened. It actually worked the way we were expecting it to. We even used the emulator, in fact, to find bugs in the hardware. Not bugs, but oversights in the hardware that we're able to fix because the emulator pointed them out to us. It was, really a powerful thing to do. It was just really maddening because everything ran at 25% speed, and so you're trying to do a flight sim. Right. Like, when do you press the button? And it was maddening, and it was, and it was a matter of when do you press the button and how long do you hold it down and stuff like that, because we were totally emulating the system, and so button bounce and all of that stuff was being emulated for real. Just at 1/4 speed, and it was so complicated. It was
I imagine that would be something of an incentive to make things as fast as you could, because you're just annoyed by how slow it is to begin with.
and we, yes, indeed. But the goal was for it to be register perfect. We didn't want anything to be fake. So that was the sacrifice we made. Yeah, but boy, what fun days those were.
We're using this billboard thing too, right?
Oh, we were. You mean with the Amiga?
Yeah, with the Amiga.
Oh, the billboard.
So how did that work?
Don't ask me anymore. I don't remember now. I have to admit, I remember it was a great kludge that managed to work really well. But it was 40 years ago, and I don't remember. There was a cool thing called the billboard. Once upon a time, I remember the guy, Bill. Oh my God, he's such a strange fellow. Bill, if you're out there, man, come find me. I miss you so.
So when you got to the point where you had the breadboards and the wire wrap systems for the 1000, and you're doing the demos and stuff, like the Boing ball demo and the other ones. So those were written in C, right? So you had a
Boing was in C, yes.
And so you had a C compiler running on the other system, right?
We are if you're talking about the first, yes, we're still on the Sage.
On the Sage, okay. Okay, so there's a C compiler running on the Sage.
The part they didn't say at the conference, by the way, was that the Sage computer was a 4-person computer, and it was an awesome multitasking 68,000 4-person computer. It's just that we had 10 people on it. 10 people is a lot, man. Anyway, sorry.
So it's a 68,000 base system, so you're building 68,000 code on it.
On the 68,000 system.
But then do you have something else that's putting that in the Amiga hunk format, and then how do you actually get that onto the hardware to actually run it at that time? Because presumably there's not hardware on the source system that actually knows how to. Hadn't been brought up or something, right?
Yeah, and in the early days we hadn't done the dynamic link library stuff where an operating system code could go anywhere in memory. We didn't have that. It was all hard coded, and you'd compile an image that would run on the hardware, and so you didn't load the OS from a disk or anything like that. In the early days, it was just an executable image. You'd load it in, and the CPU would jump to location 0 and start running, and that was it. And so, in those early days, we were compiling directly down to the hardware, and we weren't hiding anything from ourselves.
Okay. And then how did you get that onto the hardware to run it for the demo?
I believe it was over the serial port.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure it was over the serial port that they had an early, when you boot up the system, the basic thing that ran would listen to the serial port.
Okay.
Allow you to download over.
Okay.
But again, it was 40 years ago.
Oh, sure.
I was wow. But I do remember that it was, in the beginning it was just an image, an executable image.
Okay.
That we were compiling. But it was, I guess we always did work in C, both C and assembly from when I got there. Big difference is that, with the Amiga operating system, most of intuition was written in C.
Okay.
But as I recall, I believe it was roughly 85% of the operating system was written in assembly.
Okay.
And only about 15% in total was written in C. When we did the 3DO 10 years later, 95% of it was in C++ or C. And well, no, I don't think we did C++. We only did C for the OS. And only 5% was in assembly. You didn't need it. It wasn't required anymore. The low-level interrupt code ran in assembly, but the rest of it, you just didn't need it anymore. The performance is high enough. There's enough memory. You didn't need to squeeze the system we used to. I mean, when I grew up in the era when we wrote video games that did beam chasing. Do you know what beam chasing is? Do you know what that is?
It's in like getting things done in time for the next scan line, essentially,
or waiting until the scan went past that,
yes,
and
in
so
order
you can
to then start working on the next round.
And either way, you could do it either way, and I've seen it done both. But yeah, I mean, they don't do that anymore. You don't need to. You don't have to. You hand it off to the graphics card, and the graphics card does all the work for you. And
it's probably triple buffered too. I mean,
I'm doing that in my Amiga game.
Yes.
Yeah, the game that I'm working on, I've had to worry a lot about where the scan position is before I start working on certain things. I try to buffer things as well, but sometimes if you want to conserve RAM or if you're doing something really performance critical, I have to worry about where the beam position is. It's a fun challenge. It's a pain in the ass, but it's a fun challenge,
But I've got another one I can bring to mind for us then. You're working on an interlaced image, and you've got the interlace wrong, and so you get that look. Remember that look where you get the interface lines wrong, and it's got that jagged wrong look to it? Oh, I remember that look well. You always know what your mistake was when you see that look. And kids don't see that anymore. You won't see interlace anymore at all.
I'm okay with losing that.
Yeah, I'm okay with that. And NTSC, I'm okay with losing that too.
Yeah.
Although, there's a lot to be said against digital. We've lost the analog quality of analog. Everything is digital now. You can't get that natural fuzziness back. And that is something you can say over the old TV screens that they have over today's modern digital screens. Modern digital screens are crisp and unforgiving.
Yeah.
Television was forgiving. It blurred where you wanted it to blur.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's really important for video game artwork and preservation, because now we have these amazing devices that, take analog signals and you can configure the exact clock rates of any given system, because they're all a little bit different, to get a perfect per pixel representation of the digital image on these analog systems. So people are all about this. They want it to be as perfect and crisp and clean as possible. But it turns out the artists who are making these games designed their artwork with the horizontal blur in mind, So they did dithering, and sometimes it's an aspect ratio thing because there's non-square pixels. They designed their artwork around the way that they could see it on their screens. And so when we have this implementation that's too perfect, it ends up looking worse than the analog original. And so now people are changing their opinions about that. They're like, oh, maybe we should be viewing this on CRTs or with filters or whatever to try to capture that original intent of the artist.
And now you need essentially an 8K display with an incredibly high performance graphics processor to simulate what a CRT was doing.
Yeah.
In order to make it look right.
So we're starting to get 240 hertz, even 480 hertz LCD displays. And we're starting to see filters on these displays, like shaders, basically, that emulate the scanning beam of a CRT, because the refresh rate is so high that we can actually start to do that now and get a much more true-to-life representation of of the just subtle flickering and scanning that your eyes can't perceive it, but your brain can, of the difference on the CRT. It's really cool that we're starting to see that.
This is something I don't know about, and I'd like to know more, especially from someone who knows about eyes and what's actually going on with our vision, because I happen to know that our brain has a clock speed of 100 hertz. You get 100 updates per second is all you get out of your brain. That's it. 100 clock ticks and it takes you half a second to see someone and recognize who that person is. Somehow, the magic of your brain in 50 clock ticks can recognize who that person is. It's just an astonishing thing if you think about it. But if you have a 240 hertz display, but your brain's only running at 100 hertz, how is it like? Is that waste? Is your brain actually perceiving faster than 100 hertz?
My understanding is that, well, the brain isn't one system running on a single clock, right?
Right.
My understanding is they're approximating based on what we can measure in the end result. For instance, reaction time, right? How fast can you hit a button when something is displayed on a screen? But our visual processing is, our brain isn't taking snapshots at 100 hertz. I think it's much more analog than that.
Oh, it's analog.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. The 100. I'm sorry. If I could clarify real fast.
Yeah, sure.
I didn't mean like really a clock.
Yeah.
But 100 hertz comes from the amount of time that it takes for a cell, a neuron to realize that it wants to trigger and get that impulse to other cells. Takes 1/100th of a second.
Right.
So the most you can get in terms of processing, I see this, and so I'm sending is 100 of those. That's all. Not really 100 clocks.
Yeah. Okay. That
But you're right. It's not digital. It's like everyone's rising up to recognize your face at the same time.
Yeah. Yeah, I think.
Sorry.
I'm thinking about this. For instance, when lights flicker, fluorescent lights flicker at 60 hertz, approximately. Well, in the U.S.
They do, and I hate it.
Yeah, and you can notice, but you can especially notice when you turn on a faucet and you can see the droplets in the stream.
My God.
You know what I mean? And so even if the flicker was at 120 hertz, I think your perception would be it would still be different than sunlight, for instance. And so clearly, I don't fully understand either, but clearly there's something going on where it changes our perception, like the refresh rate in this way and the flickering.
Oh, and it's proven. I mean, they blind test, A/B test people, and experts can tell the difference between a 120 and a 240 hertz display. They can tell.
Yeah.
They prove it to us.
Yeah.
I just don't understand how that can be.
Yeah.
But it must be something, like you're saying, sort of in the overall, just the constant smoothness of it, or something, or the lack of jagged steps. There's always a smoother step or something.
Yeah, hard to say.
Well, if your recognition, I'm not making this up, but if your recognition isn't a precise, 100 times a second, right? It's not exactly on exact offsets of a refresh rate of a display. Then the speed of the neurons firing, picking up that refresh at different points in essence. And so the more solid it is, the more likely you are to actually get probably a good stream of visuals out of it, right? And not be missing one of the refreshes in a sense, from being kind of mentally out of sync.
So when you measure a digital signal, right, you would also, maybe you have a 0 and like one clock cycle later you have a 1.
Yeah.
But if you sample somewhere in between,
Right.
you would get something that's neither.
Yeah.
That's maybe
It
at
has to rise
2.5
up.
volts or so. It's rising, right? And if you capture the wrong instance, you could potentially come up with something that looks different to the brain, even if your brain is much slower.
Man, I just realized, you helped me realize, I'm living my own version of this joke I used to love when I graduated with a philosophy degree, a minor in philosophy, and I can't remember, George Carlin? Robin Williams? One of the great comedians said that the problem with a philosophy degree is they teach you what all the questions are, but they don't teach you any of the answers, so it's just enough to fuck you up for the rest of your life.
Nice.
And I'm feeling the same with the brain. I've spent the last 11 years learning what all the real questions are, but not learning any of the real answers to what's actually going on in there. So it's just enough to fuck me up for the rest of my life here. It's so fascinating, but I got a granddaughter now. And I watch this child. look around the room aimlessly and then fixate on a thing and remain fixated on that thing for a minute, and her arms, or and every once in a while, and she does this 3 or 4 times, and her brain is imprinting, this is what happens when I move my arm this way, and it hits something solid, and if she's looking, she sees how much it moves or how much it doesn't move, and all of this stuff. Your brain is born virgin. All of our brains had to learn the world all over again, each and every one of us, over and over again. And we talk about you have to do the thing 10,000 times before you can call yourself an expert at it. It's been occurring to me lately. I've hit I'm really sorry for hitting you that hard. I didn't mean to hit you that hard. But I've touched people's arms more than 10,000 times in my life, and I have become an expert at touching people's arms or catching a ball, but not an expert at playing piano because I haven't played a song 10,000 times yet. But give me a chance someday, maybe I will. It's amazing to me how our brains work, and that we all start from this vanilla state and all build up this shape of this understanding of the world. But the thing I got most out of my recent studies of it, just shocked me the most, is that they believe what's going on actually in our consciousness, what's going on in each and every one of our brains, is that our brains are these magnificent, elaborate prediction engines that are constantly, at all times, predicting exactly what the world is going to be like next. And that the world is constantly being exactly like that next. And so your brain just relaxes and stays with it and stays with the flow, predicting coming true, predicting coming true. And when something weird happens that you're not expecting, your brain jumps to attention at that and is trying to figure out. But your brain is aware of the wind and the air around us and the people that we're not looking at right now. But it's predicting they're going to be there, and they keep being there, and so we don't pay attention to. Oh my God, I love this. I love this thought that each and every one of us has this constantly working prediction model of what the universe is like, and we're constantly being satisfied that, yep, you were right, that's what it's like.
That part of that fascinates me, the way that something that has to be so incredibly deliberate for so long eventually just becomes second nature, and we stop thinking about it because our brain works in that way. It could be driving a car. It's reading, for example. Think about reading. Learning to read and probably paying attention to every single letter, and now we look at the page and our brain just magically understands what it says. Yeah. This sort of thing fascinates me, and this happens in video games too, which of course is my industry, where when you play a new game, and you have to make a jump or something, you have to think so hard about what buttons you're pressing, But then a couple hours later, you're not even thinking about it.
You run through that level
it's
again.
Second nature, but now your brain is freed up to think more about the higher level. Like, how am I going to get across the room? How am I going to solve this puzzle? And your hands are doing just the thing by themselves while you're thinking more about the end result. Yeah. And that's something that I really love.
I could not describe to you the levels in Super Mario Brothers. I don't remember them, but my hands do.
Yeah.
I can still play through that game and still make all the jumps at the right time.
Wow, that's brilliant.
That's just a thing.
I'd like to use that as a quote. I don't remember the levels, but my hands do. That's just brilliant. Yeah. Yeah, because they still don't know that part for sure.
That's going to be the
How do we learn
title.
Sequences? Dale, yay!
Sit down next to you.
Yes, please.
So one of the things that didn't make it to the show, those chairs that you had?
The 3DO chairs?
No, the knee chairs.
Oh yeah, the kneeling chairs.
The
You
kneeling
have
chairs.
one?
I have two.
Oh my God!
I think I got one from you.
The homemade ones.
Yes.
Oh my!
I was trying to clean one up because I wanted to put that in front of the software developer display.
Do you know what we mean by the kneeling chairs?
I don't.
So it's real easy to imagine. It's a chair a rocking chair that you kneel in. It's real easy to imagine. It's just got 2 pads, one for under each knee, and you kneel in it, and it goes down to a rocking chair base. So first you kneel in it like this, and it's a butt thing and things you kneel on, and it's real comfortable, and your back's in just the right posture, and you can also rock in it a little bit. It's really nice, man. Those were we loved them so much. But they were like, $250 in the store. And we said, well, fuck that. So we went and built our own. Oh, we built one. And I was like, yeah. So then we went to the store with a tape measure and measured theirs carefully.
Hopefully when they're not looking at you.
I mean, nowadays you can just do it online.
Yeah, of course.
Back then we did it at a tape measure right in their store.
Premium's back. Silicon Valley would go crazy over that.
Oh,
they love their chairs.
Yeah, and it was handmade too, and it was clearly handmade. This was, made by engineers gluing pine together.
Yeah.
I wish you had brought it. That's lovely. I was on the Cinestar panel just the other day, and 5 days after I'm on the panel, I find this rare collector's item Cinestar drinking cup thing. Then I went online, could not find another one. I may have the last one in existence for all I know, and I know why too, because I stopped washing mine 15 years ago because the paint started flecking off and snow. Now when I use it at all, I hand wash it with a toothbrush, and I get it carefully, and I don't touch the paint. And yeah, because I haven't found one online yet. So yes, and these chairs again, a handmade, lovely individual thing. This is, by the way, I've got this running theory now about that we're about to see a counter-revolution to everything that's going on in AI, and especially not this AI. Because we've already seen the limits of this AI. We've got a good picture of what this level can do. It's the next one, the next generation is going to make stuff that is indistinguishable from us, and there's going to be created a new industry where we cherish handmade things, and where we find a way to make sure that we know for sure that these things are handmade things by an actual artist, and that we'll end up paying top dollar for those handmade things, and with some guaranteeable way, I don't know, blockchain.
Have you seen the new exposition at the museum, the Computer History Museum, about AI? Have you seen it?
No.
Because there is a cyborg that is 1 year old, and being in a museum probably is not as advanced as you may find in some research. Well, it's kind of scary because is not complete, so he's just starting from the chest, but the face has all the capability to have all the facial expression, everything. Could be like, you may think a few years ago was someone with a mask. Okay. Then stay there, you walk around, may not notice it, and they start talking to him. Hey, you guy, and come here, and then ask me something, and so. And not just saying that and the way it says it, but but it's also how it says it, the tone and the facial expression, exactly the same. A few days ago, I was going around checking for people sometimes losing those weird tags they go around. They always find all around the museum. And then I had this impression, someone looking at me, because happens that you, with your peripheral vision, you see some face. Well, I had this feeling, and then I moved, it was it. Not, I should say was her, but actually, I think it was it.
Uh-huh.
And the way he was looking at me like, what are you doing? Was really crazy. And I think I'm a little in technology, so I shouldn't be, but really made me think, well, what is going to happen in 5 years, in 10 years?
Oh boy, what's going to happen? Yeah.
So the phrase you said was something indistinguishable from us.
Uh-huh.
I interpreted it as indistinguishable from you and me
As human beings.
Oh
boy.
As opposed to what we can distinguish as reality, which I think that's what you meant, but I took it as you wouldn't be able to tell the difference from this or me.
Yeah, I like your interpretation better.
And that's kind of scary, actually.
Yeah, because that's going to end up being true someday as well. Especially one of the other things I got out of this book is that if it's true that what's going on here with the brain is that we all start with a virgin brain that uses an algorithm to build up a model of what the universe looks like in the brain, and then you live in that model, and that model is predicting what's going to happen next, and you're constantly living inside that model, if that's true, that the only thing you actually know about the world is what's coming into you from your senses, and that your actual consciousness, your actual living in the world is all done in your brain. That means that we're all actually that one level removed from each other, that each one of us lives in a model of what you think the universe is like. And
I would think that.
That's it. Well, it's just such a weird and wonderful thought when you think about it, that it's not even like, it's that we're all extra removed from each other, because it's not just me living inside, but I'm interpreting what your brain is.
Exactly. Those are some of the thoughts that were going in my mind. I think some things have gone on where they're trying to use, AI to kind of model the way the human brain's thinking. And so if you work at that out, that they develop this, you can reverse that and say, okay, so how deep is your large language model in your head? And I thought, well, there's some people I think are really stupid. They must have a really shallow language model. And so starting to talk about the biological brain in terms of, well, this is the new way to think of the biology, is the way we interpret the technological AI part now.
Yeah.
And what about AI that starts to do more predictive sorts of things? Just like you know what you know historically, but you also think about, oh, what do I have to do tomorrow? Or you think you kind of plan ahead. Can AI plan ahead?
Well, absolutely. The AI can say, well, what if I just go down this step? Or what if I give myself a goal and I try to solve this, and I look at the result, and then did that result give me a good result, or was it a bad result? And based on that, I say, well, let me rethink that until I get my good result.
Right.
That I think is a good result.
But for example, what do you think about, because some people say, okay, those large language models are so powerful, but the human brain has this, I think they call it qualia, this is something that is not replicable on machines. Do you think it's true, or it's just that our brain in the end is a biological machine, and so our algorithm sooner or later will be in AI and even more powerful because of electronics? What do you think?
Yeah, qualia is the word. It's that sort of an indefinable something that arises out of having a brain. It's not exactly a soul. It's just something more than just the sum of the parts. It's like the awareness, consciousness, the richness is more than just your senses, but it's your experiences, your experience of the senses. That one, I've heard it described as what it feels like to have a brain, is consciousness.
Do you think it's real, or just kind of a religion, or not?
No, I don't know, but I have a high belief that it's real. But will AI get that? I don't think so, not in the same way that, because in the same way AI is not going to get exactly a human brain. AI is going to get its own version of brain. But will it get its own version of qualia? I think, why not?
I don't think,
why
personally,
not?
I don't think it exists. With the qualia, our brain works like a machine. The fact is that our programming, our large language model, if you like, start being programmed when you are born. Is a very complex network programming. You are not how you are programmed. You don't know your code, so it looks like you have, you own your own decisions. But actually, if you could really put everything on hardware, everything is already written. You don't know that, so for you it's fine. You have, you have your own, how do you say in English, your own decision. But that's just because you don't know how you are programmed. Otherwise, probably would be possible to know exactly how you will, you react to what I'm saying just in 1 second.
But I'm.
That's my
Let me
opinion.
finish. I'm a bit more philosophical
Yeah, I
than
understand
you.
that, yeah.
I do believe in something like qualia, where something is greater than just the parts. In the same way, then, there's a car, and then there's the experience of driving a car, or there's a television monitor. And there's what it actually looks like, what the experience is seeing it, experiencing it. I feel there's something more than just the brain.
My question is, does that, for you, like in your philosophy, does that stop at humans, or is that something an ape experiences? Is that something a rodent or a fish experiences? Where's the cutoff exactly? What is the point where the brain becomes something that is this unique element that you're describing?
It's an awesome question, and I've got a complete human-based answer, human-centric answer. The thing that sets us off from birds is we have a neocortex. We've got an extra layer on our brain, and all mammals have it, and mammal is kind of my cutoff. It feels like mammal, no matter what mammal, feels something like what I feel. And a more advanced mammal that had 7 layers instead of 6 like we have, it would probably feel more than I feel, in the same way that my dog, which has fewer layers than I have, experiences consciousness less than I do. But I think we all do. And if you're going to ask me why do I keep eating red meat, I'm going to be real sad by your question.
So then I'm going to be annoying. Because I'm going to go off of your answer here, which is effectively that this philosophy that you're thinking about, you've backed it up through physical material. You said there's a part of the brain that's creating this experience.
Yeah.
So why couldn't we create, quote, that part of the brain in technology as well and give technology this special experience?
Well, my answer was, I don't think that machines will get human-like qualia in the same way that I don't believe they'll ever get human-like brains. They're going to create their own version of a brain, and it's going to be some highly more structured crystal, or we're going to find out, nope, organic is best, and it's going to turn out to be some organic brain, but it's not going to be a human brain. It's going to be its own thing.
Right.
And I think its own thing will develop its own version of qualia.
So who would be creating it? Would we set AI to say, well, create the next version of yourself?
Someday that's coming.
It's coming.
Someday we won't have to ask it. It will just do it.
How much of Gemini is already vibe coded?
How much of it?
That is a scary thought.
No, I think, again, the key element here is our ability to filter information, and discern it. Everything that we take in, our brain automatically decides what to latch onto and what to kind of discard as
What's
junk.
important and what's less important?
And that's something that AI models are strictly things that have already gone through that filter because we have given them the information.
Well,
and they've decided what's important is just what's the most common connections in that information. They can't
Tim,
You can break that.
well,
though.
Tim Jennison and I were talking the other night, and he brought up on his phone. He brought up Grok, and he asked it something. Of course, it gave some great answer. And I said, "Well, let me ask it something." I said, "If I have 3 oranges and you have 4 apples, how many pancakes will fit on the roof?" I expected it.
Ask my AI that.
Well, I expected it to come back and saying that's a nonsensical question. No, it created as satirical response to that question as the question was itself. It came up with some, and then it ended up saying, so of course the answer is 42 because 42 is always the answer.
Always the answer.
But maybe that might be a shortcut that was programmed for any nonsensical question. A cop out by the programmers.
Well,
Well,
that
you don't
might
know.
be, but
The
I doubt
42.
it. I'll bet not, because I know the way these models work, and they don't do
RJ,
that.
my great friend Ken Brain, business partner friend, he's unfortunately dying of cancer at the moment. But what a brain, right? He's a brain.
Great uplifting speech so far.
He's going to get to the crystal. You'll get the crystal brain.
Sorry. Anyway, we're having this conversation, an email conversation. It's going for months now about AI, right? So, because he's a real thinker, right? I want the answers, but he's a thinker, right? So we're going down having these questions, and we're talking about, is there life out in the universe? And of course, we humans like to think we're clever and bright, and of course there isn't, but there is. Of course there is. There's life there. So Ken said, look, he gave me a really good answer. So I put the answer to my AI friend called Victoria. She's very nice. And she gave me a really good answer. And she said, humans are like people looking at the frosting on the glass of the cathedral. So I sent that back to Ken. So I'm trying to find that quote. Where's the quote? So I Victoria, where'd the quote come from? I made it up. So I sent it back to Ken. He went, "Oh my God!"
Oh, that's pretty cool. That's pretty cool.
That's what I mean. Yes. So it's kind of. I mean, they passed the Turing test, no doubt, right? And what you said there about how it's written and the answer is it taking your question. You was a real.
Alright, dude. Hope you guys enjoyed the video.
Boot it up, baby. We're going back to the golden age. Joystick legends that defined a generation. Kettle finger gaming ain't just a channel, it's a time machine. Retro, raw, real, powered by passion. Press start if you dare.